Anime tropes we love to hate.
Isekai.
That's not a trope, Joey.
That's
not
now.
a trope.
It is now.
High school.
How'd you guys?
Do we hate it?
I hate it. Yes, I do. The moment I see an anime now and it's like, he's a normal high school. Like Cyberpunk 2077, I nearly clocked out when he was in school because I was like,
Do you mean Edge Runners?
sorry, Edge Runners. Yeah, sorry, Edge Runners.
Yeah.
When he was in school, I was like, I swear to fucking God, if they made Cyberpunk and they put it in a fucking school, I'm going to lose it. And then, of course, he leaves school that episode.
Yeah, luckily.
I'm like,
Yeah.
thank God. But like, I'm just so over anything with high school. I think I've said this before on the anime. Like, I'm just bored.
Yeah.
How do we feel? Because this is one of the things that's like parodied the most.
Right.
Or like the over explanations when it comes to anime fights.
Oh, the Setsume Shio.
Yeah. And let's take JoJo and Baki out of this conversation because I feel like those are so ridiculous. I need the explanations.
Yes, of course.
I need them.
So like you're talking about like say like in a sports anime, for example, where like as you know, this like second by second play is happening.
Yeah.
Some guy in the fucking crowd has has time to do a 3-minute explanation on
Or
what's
not
happening.
like sports anime or even like any shonen battle anime.
Yeah.
Fucking
I do
half of Hunter x Hunter
I
was
do
that.
like the Hunter x Hunter narration though. I don't know, there's something about it.
It's
Gon realized he fucked up.
I don't know. I think it's just like so commonplace now where I just don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of lazy. I feel like if you make it interesting, you can convey all this information without needing to tell the audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Show don't tell, right?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about this because I think it's just something we've accepted that anime just fucking does.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a thing. We are gonna explain what's happening. And it's not only until like recently when we've just seen examples where it's been handled better than it has in the past. Like I think Jujutsu Kaisen has had a really good balance between showing what's happening versus like explaining what's happening. And I recently did like a video on like manga adaptations, and I realized what difference it makes when you just take out the explanation, take out the explaining, and just show what's happening on screen. And it's just like, holy shit, this works so much better. It just takes so much more effort.
Yeah.
But so few anime actually go out and do it.
Yeah. And that's the problem, right? Is that like some of the best stories in manga and anime, don't require a whole lot of explanation or even dialogue to like tell you what's happening. Like, like Blam, for example, right? Like that manga has barely any dialogue at all, but it's still coherent enough because it shows you every step of the way visually. And as long as you can like kind of put the pieces together as to like the sequence of what's happening, then it's fucking epic. But the problem is, as you said, it just takes more brain power to figure out what's happening because it's very much open to interpretation, right? So I think they've just like, maybe it is laziness. I don't know. Maybe the authors just have decided being like, well, I could show them, but at the same time, I'm afraid to alienate any readers into what exactly is happening, and it might, deter them from enjoying the rest of the story.
It comes
right?
from manga, right? So I think that's why we often get this over explanation kind of approach to it.
Because you need it in manga. Because you can't
Dude,
show it.
there's so many manga that I've shown in manga that I really struggle to see what's going on in the fight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Am I the only person who has this problem?
No, there are some fights where I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck's happening.
There are some manga that are better than others.
Sometimes I am looking at the battle and I am reading the panels, like going over it 4 times, and I'm like, I still in my head cannot figure out what is happening.
You read Claymore, didn't you?
Yeah, I read all of Claymore. That was hard.
Holy shit! Because I've reread it like recently. And that was almost fucking impossible to discern what's happening.
Especially
because
the later fights.
Yeah.
Because like
weird.
in group fights, you have like all of these Claymore where all of them are like silver-haired women wearing the same fucking uniform, and I'm like, who is even fighting right now? I actually cannot tell who's swinging the sword.
Yeah.
it's that one was like hard.
But I think that's the thing, right? It's like it's all up to the different author on like their skill on being able to like show the flow of movement, right? Like the reason why like Berserk, for example, like Mira did such a good job on that is that like a lot of the fights don't really have an explanation, right?
Yeah.
And if there is an explanation, it's maybe like 1 or 2 frames, right?
Yeah.
But he was such a master.
Yeah, Berserk was really easy to follow.
Yeah, because he was
what
such
exactly
a
is going on.
master at like figuring out the flow of movement and like where to show it and how to show it, that it was just very self-explanatory, even in like big fights, right?
Claymore was hard to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though the Claymore has amazing fucking art. Like the monster design in Claymore is like incredible.
Yeah.
But the way the story went, because of how the story was structured around a group of people who basically look exactly the same and all dress exactly the same, and have the same kind of weapons, just
I really
big
like
swords.
the world of Claymore, though.
I really like the world of
Claymore was great.
Cool
Yeah,
world.
it was a really cool. It was a really cool
You should
world.
check it out if you haven't. The
Yeah.
anime was quite good, but stopped.
Don't. The anime had a original ending. Remember when
Oh, it
anime had like?
did.
Yeah.
And remember when the anime just went its own path and was gonna like, and was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna end it my
like,
own.
I don't
way.
think
to be
I
fair,
will.
the best part of Claymore anyway is the part up until like that's the
halfway point?
First half.
Yeah, the first half,
That's when
yeah.
it's good anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because there's no high school in it, so that's why it's pretty good.
What'd you hate about high school?
Is there a single anime that's based in high school that is like, I can forgive this?
Yeah, like I mean, okay. There are a lot of shows where it makes a lot of sense, and I've gone on this rant before, and there's a lot of shows where I just feel like if anything, it detracts from it. Like obviously, like you know, Light being a college student or a high school student as well. I have no qualms about that. That makes sense in the story. It adds to the reason why you'd never suspect this character to be doing this stuff because he's a normal high school student. But there's other ones where I'm just like Tokyo Revengers. Do they really need to be high school students? Like straight up, like that show is
Actually, they were middle school students.
it's even worse. Like I went on this whole rant when we talked about this before, but like Tokyo Revengers was actually ruined for me because they are all middle school students.
Yeah.
Like it makes the show so much shitter. I don't understand why they did that.
But it's such an interesting dichotomy, isn't it? Because we say that about Tokyo Revengers, and yet we're okay with Hanayama from Baki being 14.
Baki,
Isn't it? It's such
okay,
a weird
if
like.
you guys have watched Baki, they're all high school students, but like it's like not even the main character's high school student fighting like fully grown men.
Yeah.
It literally nothing in Baki makes any sense,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And also, he's literally never in school.
No.
He's a high school student. He's the worst high school student in Japan. He's never. How is that man not expelled? I don't like it. He is never at school. Where are the police? I guess they. But then
Do you think the police are going to stop him?
he talks to the fucking U.S. military at one point. I don't think it's an issue. I'm sorry if there's a high, if in this world the U.S. military comes and talks to a high school student about like asking him to not fight because he's basically a weapon of mass destruction, I think all other normal rules go out the window.
So listen, your dad just talked to Obama the other day. We discussed this.
Yeah.
Don't.
I think the series that jarred me the most in terms of like adding high school in it, this is a pretty old one actually. It's Owari no Seraph. Seraph.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yes.
do you remember this? So like
I really like this show, but
I like the show
fucking-
as well. But I remember the first like 2 or 3 episodes. We are introduced to this like post-apocalyptic world where vampires are taken over, and there's only like sects of humanity.
So sick.
Yeah.
And it's
Such a
a
cool
fucking
world.
amazing world. The main character wakes up and he's like, he finds out that he's just like food for the vampires. He has to escape and all this, and you're like, damn, this world's metal. He escapes, finds like the Freedom Squad, the revolutionaries, the last remaining humans. And then there's a fucking high school arc, and I'm just like, you're in a post-apocalyptic world, motherfucker. You have tried really fucking hard. You have tried really fucking
I
hard to
completely forgot about that.
to like bring high school into this, but you've managed it somehow, and I don't know why you thought this was a good idea.
And it's so weird because later on they pretty much just drop that all anyway. So I don't that was a show that I think that really like plagued it. Like because it was when it first came out, it was like really, especially the anime, like people were freaking out about it.
Yeah.
'Cause it just dropped after Attack on Titan, had a similar kind of edginess to it and vibe people were looking for. And I think it just the high school kind of element ruined it.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of if like halfway through season 1 of Attack on Titan, they just like go back to school.
Yeah,
Attack on Titan just realized it was like, let's just fucking make these children grow up. Like,
Yeah.
let's just actually have like a good fucking arc.
I would like for more stories to be set outside of high school, and I think we're slowly starting to see that. I don't know,
Or at least like if it's going to be in a high school, get it to the point where, you know, we get to see them once they're out of school or something, you know, like, or once they're like, you know, like Beastars did a really good job of that, where like it starts off in a school, but then the second half, he's not in the school anymore. And he's like out in the real world. And like that, I think like balance is cool. I don't mind that.
A lot of people always argue that like it's more relatable to the target audience.
Yes.
And I'd say, what aspect of Jotaro do I relate to? As him being a 17-year-old kid, as a high school student. You know what I mean? Like, I feel this argument of it being more targeted is like,
but there's a reason why Josuke is the only JoJo that was in a high school.
Yeah, right?
Right. Like even fucking even Jotaro, right? Like even though he's a high school student, you never see him in the fucking school.
Like I find that they spend a lot of shows where they have a high school protagonist often spend no time in high school anyway. So what's the point of even bringing this up? And sometimes I find that kids aren't that fucking dumb. I feel like people think kids are so much more stupid than they are, that if it's just not the same, if they're not in the exact same situation, they can't relate or have some kind of tie to it. And it's like, yes, obviously, when I was in school and Harry Potter was going on, that was something I could relate to a lot more, and that was a banger. But it wasn't like I didn't want to watch 24 and Jack Bauer go around shooting people. You know what I mean? Like I find that kids want those other stories anyway. So stop saying that the only reason is because they're targeting high school students. Like
well,
I find that they're not that dumb.
In the case with Japan, it goes both ways. It's the fact that yes, they're trying to target high school students who are currently in high school, where it's like, oh, this character I like is also in high school, I relate. But it's also targeted towards younger adults who have just come out of high school as well. Where because to a lot of Japanese people, this idea of like in high school and being a student was kind of like a golden age, right?
Of like, that's the saddest thing.
Which is a really sad, but it's the truth. You know, like
it's
like
of my life.
It's like yeah.
That was my life got so much better when
I left. Which is weird, right? Because it's this. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, but it's it's this weird like difference in between the West and Japan of like in Japan, high school is like a time where it's like I wish I was back there, and then in the West, high school's movies and stuff like that are always like, look how shit high school was. Can you relate, guys? Being an adult is so much better. And it's just this like weird dichotomy. So it's like, I get that sometimes they want to do it for that purpose, but I also do agree that a lot of the times they just throw it into a fucking high school because like, oh, that's an easy setting. I don't have to come up with like an original concept for a setting or a world.
Right? And then minus double points if it's in a school and then there's unnecessary lewdness all the time or fan service where they're just like groping each other and you're like, what?
I mean, that's literally every edgy manga and anime ever.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, most of that has been transferred over to the fantasy genre now. I think
for sure.
I think high school ecchi has. I don't know if it's gone out of favor.
It's run its course.
Yeah, I think it's run its course. Now it's just like let's.
You can get way more degen. If it's not. Well, it's not Earth.
It's not Earth.
It's another world.
You know, high school doesn't have slimes running around.
You can't have slaves in high school. Talking
about tropes, I need to fucking die in anime. Every isekai having slaves, man. What? Fucking believe it. I'm an isekai fan. I'm like that just needs to fucking.
There's a weird amount of slavery in anime.
I'm so fucking done with it, man. Like, okay, I get it. It's your fantasy world and a lot of like medieval stories. They had slaves in them, but also it's a fantasy world. It's what you're only limited by what your mind can imagine. And why does everyone imagine slavery in their world?
Can we have a fantasy world where everyone is equal? That would be nice.
Do we need to have a sit down? And what's going on? Like, why are we trying to bring this back?
It's just every new isekai I swear I watch now. It's just like, oh, there's the rescuing the slave arc. Is he going to free the slave this time, or is he going to take the slave under his own arms?
The slave is falling in love with their master
under the
again.
framing that he's saving the slave. You know,
fucking hell.
I mean, I'm white, so I don't want to talk too much about slavery, but a lot of the times it feels like, well, we got this character who's kind of just cool. How do we kind of make him more likable?
Yeah.
Let's get him to free some slaves.
Just give him a savior complex. It's fine.
Yeah.